Today we're going to talk about materials. I'm currently working on a materials guide for sketchnoters, a resource to lay out all of the options available to you so that you can find the right combination of tools that fit your style and your circumstances. To get this going, in today's video, I'm going to share with you all of the materials that I use, both for sketchnoting purposes and then also some of the equipment that I use here to make these videos and edit them. So here's how today's video will go down. I'm going to start by describing what I write with, the pens and those sorts of things that I use. Then I'm going to describe what I write on, the notebooks and type of paper. Then I'll talk about some combinations of those first two pieces, specific processes that I use for different types of applications throughout my day. Finally, I'm going to talk about some digital tools that I use to bring it all together and share it online with you all. First up, what I write with. My go-to pen is this Pentel Energel 0.7. I started using this guy thanks to a suggestion from Mike Rohde, and I haven't gone back. So his advice is pretty good. I use similar styled colored pens, also Pentel Energel 0.7. This combination makes for a consistent look when I want to bring some color in. I often go straight to pen, but if I want to use pencil first, I use this Utrecht drawing pencil. I think I first got a set of 4 of these different styles of pencils, and this was the one that seemed to work well for me. So that's what I continue using and haven't used it out yet. I also like this style of eraser because it never really runs out and it's easily replaceable. To bring some more color in, at times I use these colorful Sharpie highlighters. Very useful. I like the brightness, I like the colors, and a good way to differentiate different ideas on the page. The last writing tool that I'll mention are these big chisel point Sharpies here. I use these when I'm doing large scale work. I like the tip there. It allows you to go big and bold when you want, but also kind of get that fine tip in there if you want to make your thin lines too. So that covers my most frequently used writing tools. Let's move now to what I write on, starting with the trustworthy legal pad. This right here is where most of my initial brainstorming starts. I love how easy and quick it is to use these, how I can rip one page out, move on to the next. I just ran out of legal pads actually. I'm gonna need to go pick some up today. Very usable, good to get quick ideas down. My second favorite tool for things to write on are cheap and replaceable index cards. One, I love how modular these are. You can get a number of ideas down, move them around until they're in an order that makes sense, and the layout helps you to understand the ideas on them. I also love how disposable they are. If I got an idea down in a way that I don't like, then I can just throw it away and use another one. If I want to go big, I go with these large sketchbooks, 9 by 12. That's what I use to do a little intro for today. I use that same 9 by 12 size for the illustrated videos that you will find here. And I just came across this different style of pad that is much easily tear-offable without having to worry about the extra little bits to then pull off at the end. So this is useful as well. From time to time, I also use slightly more expensive but super high quality Moleskin Notebooks, both the larger size and kind of the pocket size here. And what I look for in these are the thick pages. This thick page version makes it really nice. You don't get much bleed through, and good quality for ink sketchnotes. Finding that the pocket size are still easy to find, but this size, some art stores have them, but I have had trouble finding this size notebook with the thick pages that I like. So who knows? Take a look, see what you can find. I also make use of this gridded paper that has non-reproducible blue lines on it. What that is handy for, as I'll explain in a second, is when I want to be a little more precise with my layout or with the words that I'm writing, and then I can scan these guys in and do some easy editing to get rid of those blue lines and just pull out the ink marks that I want to use. If I want to go really big, I will go with big rolls of paper. I can't even get the full thing in the screen here. I think this is about 4 feet wide and then stretches out many feet this way. I use this when I'm doing large scale work. I have a lot of ideas that I want to throw up on the wall. I also just used this for a in-person workshop that I did, a sketchnoting workshop, which was a very useful way to throw up a bunch in the front of the room and then kind of fill it throughout the workshop. So this is good if you want to go big and stand up and be able to move around while you are getting your ideas down. Moving in the opposite direction, I also like using Post-it notes like these. I don't tend to use them for actual note-taking purposes, but they are great for day-to-day organization, making notes and reminders for myself. All right, so that covers what I write with and what I write on. Let's look now at some specific combinations and examples of putting those two types of materials together. My favorite starting point with any work that I do is the legal pad and the Pentel black ink. Here is me planning out that sketchnoting workshop. I tend to start verbal, a little bit of visual going in there, but it's a great place to get lots of ideas down, not worry about how much space you're using up. I'm more worried at that stage about getting ideas down quickly and not having anything stopping the generation of ideas. I love the note card and pen combo as well, both for to-do lists, if you can see that, but then also for more initial brainstorming, breaking down of different ideas. This is what I'm thinking for the components of this materials guide that I'm starting to work on. I also like to add some highlighters to the mix when working with note cards for a couple of different purposes. One is for webinars within the verbal to visual classroom. Here are my slides, essentially. It's nice to add a little bit of color for some contrast. This is what I use to kind of anchor the webinars, the weekly webinars that we do within that classroom. These also make for useful show notes in the follow-up recap that I do, summarizing what went on in that webinar, giving timestamps, that sort of a thing. I also like to use that same combination to summarize books that I've read. While reading, I like to take notes in the margins and then go back through and summarize the most important ideas there. Here are notes from Todd Henry's book, The Accidental Creative. It's a good way to pull out the key ideas from each chapter and then be able to lay out those ideas in their entirety and decide what you want to do with them now. With the large sketchbook, the 9x12, that's what I use to create the illustrations for the video series here within Verbal to Visual, and then also within the video lessons within the Verbal to Visual classroom. Often I'll just use a couple of different colors, fill up the page for some contrast, makes a great anchor to those lessons and a good visual takeaway of that particular set of ideas. These Moleskin notebooks I don't use as much as I used to, but when I do, I tend to do 2-stage sketch notes. So I'll start with the pencil and then go through and ink it after the fact. Here is an example of just such a sketch note. Also from Todd Henry, this from a podcast episode of his. I like that combination. These, especially with this kind of more expensive material, it's a good fit for that 2-stage sketchnoting process, something you're going to put a little bit more time and effort into, but have a bit of a stronger takeaway as well. With the smaller Moleskin notebooks, I've tended to use these more as a visual journal, particularly when I'm traveling. Sometimes I'll go straight to pen, sometimes I'll do that same 2-stage combo, pencil first, then pen. Here's some examples of how I've used this while traveling. To sketch out backpacking trips, and what books I'm reading, and where I'm hanging out, and what I'm drinking, and what I'm too scared to hike up, and some of the tools that I use while getting around. With that gridded paper that has those non-reproducible blue lines, That's what I use when I know I'm going to go digital with that particular work. So if I'm going to, for example, with the verbal to visual notebook, all of that was 100% hand sketched. So when I want to pay attention to the text that I'm writing and have a little more consistency with the drawings, those lines are very helpful, and then I can scan them into the computer and do some digital touch-ups, which I'll show you in a second. And when I go big, I like to use Sharpies. Now, if I did this every single day, I would find a different marker because the fumes of these guys do tend to get to you after a full day of work. But if you use them here and there, I found that it's not too bad. Let's see if I can unroll this and show you from the workshop the other day. Here's, oh, this is gonna be tricky. Here's a little bit of warm up. A little bit of a title sketch there. Talked about mindset. Talked about how to use text. Talked about how to use layout. Talked about imagery, how to draw icons and scenes. How to use color. And then we got some practice listening to TED Radio Hour episode. Then I shared some other good resources out there. That covers all of the analog tools that I use. Let's go digital. To get my sketchnotes into a form that's shareable online, I use two different tools. The first and easiest is a simple smartphone. This here, an iPhone 6. Really good camera, good way to get clear, crisp photos to easily and quickly share online. To get higher resolution images, particularly when I'm using that gridded paper that I know I'm going to be doing some editing and playing around with, I use this Canon Scanner. It is an LIDE 210. Affordable, mostly portable, good usable scanner here. To record both these videos and the videos when you can see me sketching, I use a Canon T5i, which I'm not going to show you directly because it's recording this video, but I'll throw a picture right about there. Upon the recommendation of a friend, I actually bought this camera refurbished on Amazon, which turned out to be a good deal and is working out well for me thus far. All right, let's now talk tripods. What I use to set up those cameras to get good pictures, clear video, and in the orientation direction that I need. First up, the Joby Grip Tight GorillaPod. This guy's kind of cool because the base here is flexible. You can use it as a tripod to sit on something. You can hook it to a tree branch or something if you're outside. And it has this useful little guy here to hold your phone. So this is what it's meant for. If you're shooting with an iPhone or another smartphone, good, easy setup here. You can angle it. You could even do something on your desk to get a cool angled shot of your drawing. Lots of different options for that guy. Another tripod that I use that this camera is currently sitting on is called the Sunpack 2001 UT. That was actually a gift from my brother for Christmas, and I've used it all the time for these videos, for other ones. Thank you, bro. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate it. The biggest tripod that I use by far is this beast right here. Heavy, somewhat expensive, Manfrotto brand. Really good tripod here. Here's why the money was worth it for me for this guy. All right, so you can probably see this guy up here where the camera actually sits. Got a very flexible tool here to point this in any direction that you want. How that comes in handy for me is it's got this other direction here. So right now it could shoot straight on, but when you pop this guy up, hold on. This is very useful because this is the setup that I use when shooting down on the actual illustration for these videos. Set the camera up here, point it downward. There's still plenty of space because the legs are out of the way. This has been an essential tool for doing the illustrated videos. I also use two of these Easel lamps. Right now they're on either side of this camera so that I am lit and all this is lit. hopefully not overlit. I also use those two when recording the illustrations, pointing downward on either side of the camera to make sure all of those drawings show up clear. To record audio, both for these videos, illustrated videos, and also for the podcast episodes, I use this blue Yeti microphone. It's got different settings so it can be in different directions, so this probably sounds weird, but this guy's really useful, affordable tool there. With that microphone, I also use a pop filter, which is right down here. I don't want to detach it. That filter cuts out the S's and the pops so that the audio overall is a little bit clearer than it would be otherwise. So I use all of those digital tools to get my sketches in a storable and also shareable format so that I can share them with you online. That's where this iMac comes in. I use this iMac to do some editing of individual images, but also the videos. For all of that editing, I use Adobe Creative Cloud, which is a monthly membership that gives you access to the entire suite of Adobe products. The four that I use most often are Photoshop and Illustrator to work with images, and I use Adobe Audition to touch up the audio, and then Premiere Pro to do all of the video work. When working in Photoshop and Illustrator, I sometimes use this bamboo tablet from Wacom that comes with this little stylus here. So basically what I draw here shows up on the screen. It's a little bit of a disconnect and kind of takes the mind a while to get used to it. Eventually I want to get a tablet where I'm drawing right on the screen. Don't have one yet, but we'll be getting one hopefully in the relative near future to test out. But this guy is useful when I want to be precise and when the mouse just isn't doing it for me. Okay, that covers pretty much all of the tools that I use on a daily basis. I want to reiterate here that the place to start is with affordable and accessible materials. Don't look for the perfect set of notebook and pen and all these digital tools, because it doesn't exist. It's not about the tools that you use, it's about how you use them. Remember that. Focus on affordability and accessibility and then experiment from there. For more information on this materials guide that I'm working on, check out the links below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you next time.